Welcome to Amintro Family, the podcast. I'm your host, Jeff Sammut. We hope you're enjoying the free online platform and community for family caregivers, be it through the Amintro Family app or amintrofamily.com, because it's all about helping those caring for their aging parents and relatives or friends, and to connect and to share experiences and access valuable resources. And we've got Susie Singer Carter. She joins us today, the award-winning filmmaker and spokesperson for the 3-episode documentary No Country for Old People, a nursing home expose. Amazon, Hoopla, Spectrum, Charter, Cox, Infinity, Tubi, just some of the services where you can find the documentary. Susie, congratulations on the doc, and we appreciate your joining us.
Thank you for having me. And I think it's always good to be with other caregivers, so thank you.
Yeah, it's quite a community we have here, Susie, and we're glad you're a part of it now. Thank you for that. This is, okay, well, first off, No Country for Old People, congratulations on this. It's been honored in the category of health awareness at the Anthem Webby Awards, and you really take a deep dive into the long-term care industry in the U.S. and how it's become a massive business and how turnover is profitable for those cashing checks. This really, brutally honest, is the doc, and I'll be brutally honest as well. It's a must-watch, but it's a tough watch as well.
Yeah, it is a tough watch, and you know, it was the question of, while making it, how far do we go, and how, because honestly, like I remember the first our first draft or version of it, and I had a couple of friends who are filmmakers look at it and go, literally 2 of them said, if it wasn't you, I would have turned it off. And that's not to, and by the way, it's gotten, we pulled it in, so don't get scared. If it's not like you're going to go, what?
Yeah.
You've seen worse things in movies, Yeah. But because it's real, and because there's no buffer between what's happening and what you're seeing. It's just a little shocking, but you'll agree, we don't do anything gratuitously at all.
No,
and
it's
right?
real.
It's really more emotionally tough to watch, I think. Yeah. And we just decided. I tried to look at it from my point of view as like a neophyte in that world of long-term care. I didn't know anything about it. All I knew is that my mom was suffering and not getting any help that she needed. And I thought by the end of that 6 months, which the journey up from start in the hospital down to 6 months of just hell, I just thought I saw too many things that I can't unsee. I know now too many things that I want everyone to know. And if I don't share it, then I'm culpable, like the people that are, that are propagating this.
This is a 5-star place that you put your mom in, in LA. And you'll see in the film, everybody, this is what's going on at what you perceive to be the best place for the best care for your mom. But what was it like for you to be taking care of your mom and to have had to make that decision that her care was beyond what you can provide?
Right. It's a great question, because people ask me all the time, why did you leave your mom in that place if she was suffering? Right. And
you're one of many that have done this. You're one of many.
Millions and millions.
Yes.
Millions and millions. Nobody, unless they're not very good people, want to put their parents in a nursing home, right? Mm-hmm. My mom had Alzheimer's for 16 years. By the time she passed away, it was 16 years. And it can be a very long disease. And it comes with other comorbidities as you progress. And she ended up needing a lot more care in terms of her mobility and her continence, and all kinds of other things that started to happen as your body begins to shut down, but you're not dying, but other things are closing down because parts of your brain are shrinking. But that doesn't mean you're not alive, and that doesn't mean you're not enjoying your life, right? So most of the time it's going to be safer in a place where people perceivably are trained to be skilled in the kinds of needs that your loved one is requiring. So to keep them home, of course we want to keep them home, but you may not have the space. You may not have the help. If you need two people to help move from bed to chair, how are you going to do that yourself? If you have to work, how are you going to quit work? Because with, Alzheimer's or dementia, it can be a 24/7 care.
Yeah, that's right.
Right.
Well, there's the emotional toll that is bestowed onto you that you're going through as a caregiver to someone you love. You're an administrator. You might be taking care of kids of your own. You're trying to work and earn money. And you also have to make decisions and advocate. And you have to do that on a very tired and emotional brain. There's just a lot going on. There is a point where you have to accept the fact that in terms of care, you need to find help. You need to get help. You're still the leader. You're still the captain of this team, but you have to incorporate a team of people to help. And you're trusting them with someone you love. And you would expect that in doing so, they're going to get the best kind of care because
that's the definition of what they're supposed to do.
Yes, exactly.
That's their job description.
Yes.
You don't go to the doctor, you don't go to the dentist and him look at you and you go, I don't know, what do you think? I mean, you're supposed to trust them with that, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's right.
How's that implant doing, Susie? Do you think it's done? Do you think you're ready?
I don't know.
This is what was going. Let me ask iChat. Honestly, this is what's expected of you, right? Because,
that's right.
And the truth is because, let's get to the business model of this industry that I had no idea of. And I had no idea why the pushback felt so rigid, and my mom was experiencing everything that was emblematic of neglect and abuse, UTI, stage 4 pressure sore, never event per CMS, Centers for Medicare and Medicaid, never event. People will say, you'll hear it from administrators, you really can't avoid pressure sores. You just can't avoid them. Well, they are the number one proof that your loved one's getting neglected. Because if someone isn't being seen, their body is not being looked at every day. I mean, you can see when a sore is starting. To get to stage 4, that's down to the bone, folks. Yeah, that's right. That is so egregious and so horrifying, so painful. It is incredibly difficult to cure. Yeah. Right? But you must. And my mom ended up going into the hospital. I wasn't even told she had a 1, 2, or 3 stage. Yes. And then when you learned it was a 3, it ended up being a 4. Right. It was a 4. And the hospital called me to say, your mom has just been admitted with a stage 4 pressure wound, because they didn't want responsibility that it happened there. They wanted to memorialize that it didn't happen there. So I called the nursing home and said, why didn't you tell me that my mom had a pressure sore? And they said, didn't happen here. Then where would it have happened? In the ambulance on the way over. Oh, sure. In that little ride. Right. I should go back because in talking about how for this viewer, for me, how it's a must but tough watch, there were a lot of triggers for me. And I can't say that I went through the exact same thing that you went through, but I lost my dad to Alzheimer's, about 4 years ago, a little bit more than 4 years ago. And he was in a full-time care facility by the end of his life for a while. And for some of that time, COVID, which is covered a period of time for your mother's end of life as well, which was extremely difficult, as you document in your documentary. But there were some things where, you talked about how you walked into the room and you're like, it stinks in this room, in this very, very hot room with no ventilation, which is where your mom was placed and would not be relocated. You talked about how at one point the smell was just unbearable because she hadn't been changed, and she'd gone. She had gone, and she wasn't changed. And
that happened to my dad in a different way, where I'd walk into the room and I'd be like, it stinks. And it would be because he would be helped to use the bathroom. And without getting into too much detail, it would make a mess outside of the toilet, and then it wouldn't get cleaned up. Like, it would be hours and hours and days before we get cleaned up. My mom, who used to work at a hospital in housekeeping, she would come to visit, and she would end up cleaning the bathroom. She would end up doing it because she couldn't bear it, or she would change him, or she would do things. Caregivers coming in to visit their loved ones, doing the work of what the staff should be doing. The understaffed staff people should be doing.
There you go. I was just going to say, there's your segue into understaffing. That's the whole problem. And during COVID, that's why it was so profoundly in your face that something was wrong, because we weren't there. Caregivers weren't there to pick up the slack, right? So we really saw what was happening because of understaffing. And and then you pile on the fact that staff was getting COVID and they were being quarantined for 2 weeks. I kept saying to myself, who's watching everybody? I would be like, hello, well, today, there's 12 people on quarantine. Today, you get these, calls that were automated, right? 12 staff members have been quarantined for 2 weeks. And every day, I'm not lying, folks, like every single day I got these calls, and I was like saying to my partner, like, who's watching these people? Like, is there enough? Well, sure enough, that everybody was placed in their room for safety and were left alone. So many healthy elders died from failure to thrive because they were isolated and alone. I mean, it's what you do to prisoners when they're, you put them in solitary confinement. It's no quality of life for a year and a half.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which was the minimum time that we weren't allowed to see our parents or loved ones, husbands, wives in person. So many people died, but we saw how bad it was because we weren't there to pick up the pieces.
Yeah.
And to clean the toilet, say, hey, my mom needs a pillow, or hey, my mom, she's thirsty, or you bring it to her, you're doing it, or you're feeding them and you're entertaining a bunch of people, like we're all musical people. So I'd be like, hey, we're having a sing along, get your butt over here. All right. And so we'd all, Susie's singing, come on, Frank, and we had, I think and because we didn't want to believe it, too. As, I didn't want to. That was me. I was like, I'd see a red flag, and then my mom's place was a 3-year waiting list.
Yeah, you'd think this can't be. This has got.
It can't be. I'm being too picky.
I'm not pulling back completely behind the curtain. I don't know all of the goings on, so this can't be right. And you question yourself. Right. You question, and also again, you're emotional, and you're trying to make your mother happy. You're trying to be present.
So true.
So there's so much going on.
There's so much going on.
You can't 100% focus on making sure people are doing their jobs or people are there to be doing their jobs, because there's just so much going on. So going
your
back to the time,
right?
Yeah, that's right. You only have so much bandwidth. So going back to when you relocated your mom to a nursing home and saying, well, I didn't know a lot about the industry at that time. Do you feel, though, because I felt that I was more proactive than reactive in terms of my dad's care, which includes relocating him. But even with that, I felt like a turtle on my back sometimes going, what's happening? What do I do about this? I got to get on the phone. I don't know who to call. I got to do something. And you're trying to react. And I felt like I was as prepared as I possibly could have been to make all the decisions and to make sure my dad was getting the proper care. Did you feel the same way I did when you relocated your mom?
1,000%. Listen, my mom, when you have a long disease like my mom, it doesn't matter unless you are, Musk or, somebody in the 1%, you're going to run out of your savings and your nest egg. It just is going to happen. And you're going to end up if God forbid, but then I don't know, we shouldn't have to say God forbid, because Medicare and Medicaid were set up for these reasons, just exactly for this, to take care of you when you need it. And that's why you pay for it out of your payroll every week.
That's right.
And,
Americans
right?
do. Yeah. And the difference between Medicare and Medicaid, were there nursing homes that would move their patients or their customers, their clients, would move them from one place or to another because that other place was also owned by the same company so that they can collect on both Medicare and Medicaid? Was that happening?
Doesn't work like that. That's not how it works.
Okay.
So none of Medicare and Medicaid do not pay for long-term care. I mean, Medicare doesn't pay for long-term care.
Mm-hmm.
It does. It pays for health, for taking care of your health and certain things. And it's not ongoing. It's specific to a health issue.
Yeah.
Okay. Except for hospice.
Yeah. Right.
Medicare takes.
Okay, so that was under the
Medicare
umbrella
covers
of hospice,
and that's
because
why
I think this was in episode 2.
Yeah, and that's why hospice. Yes, and that's what you're talking about, the double dipping.
Yes, the double dipping. That's what it is. Okay, all right.
Yeah. But let's go back and say, so Medicaid, it does. Medicaid. This is where the industry is dipping their hands into the Medicaid, right? So there's plenty. They'll say day in and day out, there's not enough money. There's to staff the way you're asking us to staff. There's not enough money. We don't make enough money. We can barely take care of people on the money that Medicaid is bringing in, which is baloney. It's baloney. It's because that's where their resource for tunneling the money out of there. It comes from Medicaid. Medicaid pays for long-term care, but not in the home.
Right.
Not in the home.
Right.
So that's what happens in those situations. There was something you mentioned. I'll get back to it. It went out of my head, but
it'll come to you. I was going to ask you about I was going to ask you about hospice as well, because there are some people, and you document this. There are some people that just don't know what hospice is. They don't understand what the term is.
Well, that's what I was going to say to you. That's where I was headed.
Good.
You asked, you asked, did you feel as you said, a turtle on your back? Yes, many times. I call it whack-a-mole. I felt like I was playing whack-a-mole because I didn't know, as soon as I thought I got something, there was something over here. Oops, right?
That's right.
And so, no. And by the way, when I first started this documentary, when it came to hospice and the difference between all the different insurances, right? I had no idea at all. I never had to deal with it. I didn't know really the how it all worked, and I didn't know the difference between hospice and palliative care, right? Yeah. And so when I was told that my mom they recommended that they were going to release her from her third hospitalization, and this was the one where they were when the doctor was giving her fentanyl when she didn't need it, and said she was had failure to thrive and that she was dying, but she wasn't dying. This was in an emergency hospital. When I found that out, it turned out that they were just upping the fentanyl until she died. And by the grace of God, my niece said, "Why is Nanny on a fentanyl drip? She's not in pain. What's going on?" She wasn't dying. And on all those things that they tell you, well, at first she was supposed to die in 2 hours. It's didn't know 2 hours passed, and then it was a day. And then now it's 5 days and no water, no oxygen, no nothing. Because she's on comfort care.
Yeah, that's why you have some people in the film saying they're killing people. People are being killed.
Your loved ones to make more money.
Yes.
So they said. So when I found out, and you remember in the documentary, that doctor called me because I called him. I didn't think he was doing what he said. I just said, I can't stand by this. Our family were like, no, this isn't feeling right. Let's get her back on, food and substance and let her die naturally. If she's going to die, That was like 5 months before she died.
Yeah.
She wasn't ready to die.
Yes.
And he called back and said, I've been thinking about what you said, and you're so right. And, we don't have the right to euthanize her. And I was like, what did you just say, euthanize? When did I ever say that? Okay, what's going on? So when he said, I'm going to release your mom back to the nursing home, and we'll get her into hospice. That was the first time I ever heard hospice. But she wasn't going. The doctors from the hospital didn't say she should go to hospice. This was after the stage 4. Then when they got her to the place that she could go be released. And I said, oh, good. We're going to take her back to the place that's safe. And it's going to be, and apparently hospice is this panacea. It's like she's going to be well taken care of, and she's going to get extra care because hospice is fantastic, right?
Yeah. And they're not saving people.
Not.
They're just trying to make people feel comfortable.
Well, Medicare
in their final
kicks in.
days. Yep.
Medicare kicks in, and the hospice, you can pull up to $1,500 a day. That's $30,000 a month.
Wow.
And in hospice, you don't have to do, all you need to do, all you're required to do as a hospice team is to keep that resident patient comfortable, AKA opioids, AKA, morphine, Haldol, fentanyl. So, and whatever, if they have, let me back up. Hospice can be good. In its original intent, it's very good. If someone has cancer and they're done, they do not want any more treatments. They want to just live the last months of their life comfortable and a quality of life. It's perfect for that. When you need wound care, when you need rehabilitation, when you need to re-exercise your throat because you were intubated, which all of us need that. We need rehabilitation after being intubated. And especially someone with Alzheimer's, you need all this care. And if you just put them in hospice and say, here's some morphine, that person is going to die before their time, 100%. But I didn't know that. First day, I get a call from the head nurse, and she said, so just wanted to let you know, hospice doctors has removed your mom from this drug, that drug, this drug, like her cholesterol medicine, her blood thinners, so on and so on. And I'm like, why? Oh, she doesn't need them. Why? They didn't say because they're preparing her to die.
That's exactly it. Yes. They're not trying to have her survive. They're trying to let her go. Yeah.
They're trying to let her go. They're pushing her out the door because she's too much resource. She's taking up too much resource.
That's right.
And so but I didn't know that. And when you ask doctors, I wanted doctors in my documentary to really explain the difference, because finally on her 4th visit to the hospital, the doctor there, who was quite younger, he said, than the other ones, I said, because there's a lot of details that people will have to watch this to see, but they gave my mom a feeding tube in the hospital when she was intubated, but they never took it out. And my mom lived to eat and drink. That was her life. Hello, we're Jewish. We love to eat. And, it's who doesn't like to eat, right?
Yeah, of course.
I mean, it is part of life, and it's the last pleasure in your life. Music, love, food.
Yeah.
They all are together, it's those things, those creature comforts. And, they kept saying she's aspirating. She's going to get aspiration pneumonia. Well, she had pneumonia in the hospital from you guys because you didn't take care of her. She got sepsis. Sepsis brings on pneumonia. So I said, this is not a way to live, but they wouldn't even bring in somebody to rehabilitate her so that she could eat. And they said, if we know we know this makes you stressed out, totally understand. You can take her home if you want.
Oh, really?
You can't. Yeah. So they know you have no alternative.
Right.
You're stuck. You're between a rock and a hard place.
It's this or take her home.
I begged, get a swallow assessment, please. You cannot just say she can't swallow.
Yeah, that's right.
A huge.
And you had an expert talking about how it's like you have to, you can't say, well, she can't do that, so she's never going to swallow again. Like you have to keep working at it, or else
Yes.
it becomes even more difficult to swallow.
Bring
At least
someone in
in-
and assess it.
Yeah,
assess
get an
it.
assessment. Yeah, not just write it off.
You can't just write it off. And because you and I, we are representing caregivers, you and I don't know all the little details of these kinds of situations. And you are in crisis. You've been up nights after nights after
Sure.
nights. First of all, it's COVID. I couldn't even go in the hospital. They wouldn't even let me into the hospital.
Yeah.
So I was advocating on the phone. One
Yes.
I called up once, and you'll relate to this. My mom was in urgent care, and I said, I wanted to see how my mom was doing. I said, can I talk to her? Can you put the phone next to her? She said, honey, she doesn't talk.
Wow, really?
Uh-huh.
Could you FaceTime?
They wouldn't, because they said no. They wouldn't do it because that nurse. And then finally, I got them to do that, and
Yeah.
they one time.
I remember that part in the
outside
film. Yeah. No, I'm
And
sorry
I
to
would-
interrupt. I was gonna say I remember that
That's
part of the
okay.
film where you the first time you FaceTimed her, and you hadn't seen her in a really long time, and
Mm-hmm.
you filmed yourself getting off the phone and talking about
Yeah.
it and what that feeling was like. Sorry to interrupt, but it was a
No,
really
it's
poignant
okay.
part of the documentary that I wanted to highlight.
No, all of it was just so, there wasn't one easy part in this whole journey.
Yeah.
It was like, and I kept saying, why is all this happening to me? Like, why, or me, my mom, like every time I go to visit her, something else, like I remember the feeding tube incident where I'm like, she's getting double the amount, which actually could make her aspirate and
Yes.
also
That's right. You
like
pointed it
throw
out.
up into her own body.
Yeah,
And,
the
it's
doctor said,
actually
I'm
so-
surprised that didn't happen.
Right. And what if I didn't go there at 10 o'clock at night?
Yeah.
What if I didn't, as a lay person, what if I didn't look at that number and go, I thought that number always said 60. Why is it saying 120?
I remember that part of the documentary and thinking, I can't believe she even picked up on that. I'm not sure I would have.
It's just that when you sit there a long time, you sit
I guess
there, you're
so.
singing, and
There's
I was
nothing
like,
to look
it was
at.
like, what do you, after a while, you're just like, oh, that's these are all the normal things now.
Yeah.
And then when the nurse who I finally found, goes, no, I think that's right. I think that's right.
I think that's right. And it turns out
It wasn't.
that person was running the floor for the first time and didn't know any better, and you got an apology for whatever that was worth.
The
Well, it wasn't
apology
even really
was,
apology. It was more of an explanation.
It's a training issue.
Training issue.
That's what he said.
That's what it was.
That's what the head of nursing said. It's a training issue. So
Yeah.
thank you for pointing that. Thank you for pointing that out.
How was it, Susie, as a filmmaker, to find and a caregiver, to find others who have similar stories? Like there was one person that you had in the film that talked about how the treatment her mother was getting was, all right, well, we're done here. Like trying to convince her this is the end. Like you gotta let her go. Like that's it. Like I think she said something like my number one. The doctor said something like the number one job I have is to convince you that she's dying.
Exactly.
I'm paraphrasing, but it was something like that.
Yeah.
And then
That's Mara Karpel, and her
Yeah.
mother lived. She fought so hard for her mom because her mom was like, "I'm not ready to die. What's going on? Leave me alone." Because she could talk,
Yeah.
and with Alzheimer's, did your dad ever lose his ability to articulate?
eventually, yeah, he couldn't
Yes.
talk anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
But I don't know about you, but my mom and I spoke without words. We just did. I knew I could make her laugh. She was there.
Yeah,
I could
you
make her
showed that.
smile. Yeah. She would kiss me, and we would, if I put one of her favorite Neil Diamond songs on, she'd go, she knew it. She was there.
Yeah.
She was there. And I get chills talking about it because she was there. And I said to them, if I'll know when she wants to go. My mom does not want to be where she's not wanted. Trust me. She's never fought, life. She's just taking everything very gracefully, but she's not done. Let her decide when she's done.
Yeah,
That's all Yeah.
And who was this person in the film? Was it Margaret? Marge? What was her name?
Mara, her mom.
Excuse me. Yeah.
She lived 2 more years.
2 more years.
And,
that's right.
And 2 more years is a long time, wouldn't you? 2 years, a lot of things happen in 2 years. And when you're older, relatively speaking, 2 years is a lot of time for you.
That's right.
And for the family, and for other people, because her mom was such a lovely soul. Like everyone, if you remember, we're calling her Mama, and other residents loved her, and she brought joy to other people's lives, and she enjoyed her life for 2 more years. That's the way it should be. The fact that these not all doctors, believe me, and we talk about that too. There are so many more good frontline providers that can't do the job they want to do because of the way the business is structured. So they are experiencing what's called moral injury. And many of them have left the industry because they can't deal with it. Because when a certified nursing assistant, a CNA, is given the task to take care of 30 residents in an 8-hour shift, do the math.
Yeah, that's not much time.
Do the math. No.
Yeah.
And then to be, yelled at or the stress alone on that person, and maybe they don't have help to turn somebody that needs to be turned because they have a wound, because it takes 2 people to do it properly. And they can't sleep at night. Some of them would stay like 24, like they'd stay 2 nights in a row because they couldn't bear to leave the people that they've created relationships with, that they love. That's so important too. If you ever want to watch the documentary, maybe you have, The Blue Zone. Why do people live longer lives, quality lives? Because they have purpose, they have community.
Yeah, that's right.
And without community, like I said earlier, these very healthy elderly people that were living at my mom's facility, that were like the cool people in their 90s, they all met every afternoon. They had dinner together. They went to movies. They were like, "Oh, Susie makes films. Put us in a film." I was like, "You better." Everyone heard it. You're getting into film, And there was an ex-actor there, older actor. He was the oldest of them all. All lovely. All died during COVID, because they had no purpose anymore. They had no more community. So, that's so important for a CNA to be able to say, "How you doing, Norma? Oh my God, your skin, you're so darling. I've heard you're a singer," whatever. I'm just, I'm riffing.
Yeah.
But that's so important, not to be treated like a bed that you're changing.
I want to talk more about your mother and her story. And it was important that you led off the 3-episode documentary with getting to know your mother. I want to ask more about her in a moment. But you talk about community. What about the community of caregivers? What was it like for you, again, as a caregiver and a filmmaker, to have talked to other people about their stories, and then to shut the camera off and to see the people that you pointed cameras at feel like they have been heard? What was that feeling like?
Feeling like I was hurt. Like I was so raw. I went right from my mom dying and that whole journey to speak to others who have just come out of a journey or were remembering a journey, and they hadn't really talked about it. And there were so many tears shed, so many tears. It was so difficult for me because I could feel them. The Stewart family, I still cry when I think about what happened. That family was, all of them. Mara, what a tremendous advocate for her mom, and all of them. I'm trying to think of all their names. Deborah, oh my God,
a number of stories in the film.
So many stories. And Betsy with her husband just fighting for dignity. And it's like I cry the entire time. My partner in the documentary, one of my partners, we're a very small team, is a former federal prosecutor, Rick Montcastle.
Yeah.
And I had Rick on my podcast called Love Conquers Alls because he was featured, his story when he went and he prosecuted Purdue Pharma for OxyContin and the Sackler family. And there's a mini series called Dope Sick that's on Hulu, Emmy Award winning. And Peter Sarsgaard plays Rick, who, prosecutes this big, huge, horrible company. And yet they're still in business. And yet he couldn't prosecute them criminally because you can't get to them because of the veil, right? And there's all kinds of things put in the way. So at the end, the last part of the last episode of Dope Sick, his partner comes to him in the episode and says, "We have our next case. It's another pharmaceutical, and it's Abbott Labs who are off marketing Depakote to nursing homes." Well, 8 years before my mom died, she suddenly did this switch. And she went from this very able-bodied pistol of a woman with Alzheimer's to someone in a wheelchair and a zombie and incontinent. And I didn't find out. I thought her Alzheimer's was progressing. That's what I thought. I didn't know.
Sure. Because it is this. It's only a steady decline. You don't get better from that illness, and it can go bad really fast. And with knowing all of that, there's still a lot of unknowns. There's still a lot of mystery with it. So as a caregiver to someone who has Alzheimer's, you just kind of chalk it up to, well, I guess it's a bad day. I guess this is a day where there's a bigger drop.
That's right. And I was like, I mourned. We were all mourning. I mean, these are not light things that happen to anybody, right? I mean, that decision to put my mom on Depakote without asking me, and I wouldn't have known except that her general practitioner, that she went to an appointment for a checkup, called me. I was working and I was on a set, and he said, "Hi, listen, I just want to tell you, your mom's in my office. I just checking. She's on Depakote. It's a black label drug, which means it's most likely deadly for someone with dementia and in elders. And, Depakote's it's an anti-seizure drug for epilepsy, but it was off-marketed and to what we call chemically restrained residents, right? So, and this is a practice that happens all across the country. And if you ever walk into a nursing home and you see this in chairs,
just
lined
there.
Up, they're not sleeping, they're drugged.
They can't communicate.
They're drugged.
They might be aware of what's going on, but they can't communicate, right? They're out of it.
In the 1987 Nursing Home Reform Act, specifically was addressing real restraint because they used to tie people that were agitated, people with dementia who might be agitated, or people that were too active and took too much time. They would strap them to beds and to chairs. And that act in itself, that was a regulation that made that stop. And it was supposed to stop chemical restraining, but chemical restraining is it's more, it's not on everyone's radar. You can't tell, if your loved one is being chemically restrained, you don't know, because you'll hear, no, they're tired. No, they're just, they're progressing, da, 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 da. So this is a huge problem. And, with all the changes that are happening in our country right now, there's been so many articles about the uptick in the use of chemical restraints. And being chemically restrained, never mind the quality of life. If someone is sleeping all day and sitting in a chair, you are in your own excrement.
Yeah, you're in your own prison.
You wouldn't do that to a baby.
Yeah.
You wouldn't leave a baby in a wet diaper.
No.
What happens? They get diaper rash. What happens if you didn't address that diaper rash? It's going to turn into a pressure sore, and it's going to go just what happens to all those people.
Yeah.
So you can see how it is neglect, right?
Yeah. I'm going to talk about your mother because I really want to, but I got to get this in.
Okay.
Dr. Alan Power is a geriatrician, a dementia expert, an author, a keynote speaker, and he says, quote, "What changed the disability movement was Mothers from Hell. What's going to change long-term care is Daughters from Hell." Do you believe we have
Sign
a
me
chance for? Hey, you're already in. Do you believe that we have a chance for real reform of the long-term care system? And here I am in Canada. You're in the U.S. There are many differences, but
a lot of similarities.
But a lot of similarities and improvements can be made. Do you think that
Yes.
those improvements can be, right?
Yes, they can be. Absolutely. Here's the thing. We've been doing traditional advocacy for the same issues here in America for over 50 years. This is not a new thing. The same things that I talk about in the documentary, as you saw in the end of the documentary, when I read from a book that was written in 1974, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, you would think that everything I'm saying is what's happening now, which it is, but this was from passages from a book over 50 years old. So it has been the same. Why doesn't traditional, I'm going to get to the answer, but why hasn't traditional advocacy worked? Because in America, we have a very strong nursing home lobby, and they're very rich, and they use money and their power to keep our politicians from making the right decision for the people, and to make the right decision for the investors and for the corporate owners. And so they pour millions into their campaigns. Our lobby has embedded themselves in our legislature. So when you lobby for a certain bill and it gets taken into consideration, which is performative at best, it's going to get killed. And let's say it gets passed through. In California, we have a minimum staffing, because that's state by state right now, minimum staffing. We have minimum staffing regulation. Why isn't it working? Because there's no oversight, there's no enforcement, and there's no penalty.
That's right. That's right. And there's got to be more will from the people to put pressure on politicians to make sure the right thing is done. And if you don't care about those that you're going to be caregiving for, then how does it suit you that it could actually be you that is in that bed, that is in that personal prison, that is not getting the care that you deserve? Because this is how we are living in an aging population. All of what we see in your film, all the people that we see that are not receiving the type of care that they deserve, very easily could be us. Very, very easily. Probably
will, because we are all living longer. It's a very big industry to keep us on the earth for a longer period of time, but it's the same amount of money. Well, it is and it isn't. It's not being invested in the infrastructure to take care of the people that are living longer, right? So this is what happens. It's like, I talk to my dentist, because I keep getting cavities and I keep getting having to have a root canal. And I'm like, what is going on? I have great teeth. This is ridiculous. It's like, we were not meant to live past 40. Past 40, everybody's teeth go bad, right? I mean, this is what goes on. And so, it is what it is. But if we're going to live longer, we need to provide for that. That doesn't just mean, not getting pneumonia, not getting sepsis. Those are things that they try not to let happen because they don't want the responsibility. They don't want to get dinged for it. The facilities or the doctors. But we're leaving out quality of life. We're leaving out the quality, and if there's no quality, what are we doing? We're warehousing people. That's what we're doing. That's right. That's right. That's what we're doing. So yes, there is a way. The way, as you already said it, is that collectively, as a collective population, as constituencies, we have to come together. Like any huge change, any rock boulder that's been tried to, that we've tried to push up a million times and doesn't stick. We need the entire community to push that rock up, and we need everybody, because the only power we have against the lobby and against millions and millions of dollars, billions of dollars, is our power as constituents. And to shame our politicians and let them know we know what's going on, we want it to stop.
Yeah,
We want
that's
it to
right.
stop.
That's right.
And that's how we have to do it. That's why I created Roar. It's a movement that I've created to be able to use our voices for those that don't have voice.
Where can people find out more?
Yeah, ROAR stands for Respect, Oversight, Advocacy, and Reform for Long-Term Care. I'm inviting everybody to go to our website, nocountryforoldpeople.com. And there's a tab that says the Roar Movement. You'll go there and you'll find out all about what we're doing. And I invite you to sign up and become a Roarier and roar.
Yeah.
Use our voices to roar as loud as we can for those that can't.
Yeah. Good.
For the
Excellent.
vulnerable.
Excellent. Roar. Excellent.
And it's not it's not just elderly, everybody. As you saw in the documentary, I featured younger people too, because there are people that have disabilities that need to take advantage of long-term care. And often those people, because they're younger, because they're more active and can be vocal, they really get the retaliation, which is very real. Retaliation is a very real phenomenon in these situations.
Yeah, meals go missing, blankets aren't delivered, whatever it might be.
Whatever.
They go wait another half hour. I'll put them at the bottom of the list of people I've got to see.
She's annoying.
Yeah.
She's annoying.
She's always doing that. Don't worry about it. She's upset. This is
and how many caregivers did you see that said, it's like the one woman who was talking about her mom, and she said, I had to become a person that I didn't want to be. They were like, uh-oh, here she comes. She was like, but right?
It's like you don't want to complain too much, or you don't want to be too inquisitive. You don't want to question too much. You want to walk this fine line of being very, very nice and very easygoing, but at the same time being an advocate and making sure that your loved one is getting the care that they deserve. But there's a fine line. If you're going to make one too many phone calls or one too many requests at the nursing station or something, then you're that family member that the nurses don't want to see. You come on the floor and we're not going in that room because we don't want to hear any questions.
100%. We felt the shift. We're nice people. I'm a nice person. I'm not the person at a restaurant that goes, you know what, this is terrible. I didn't order this. It's like, I won't do, that's not who I am.
Yeah.
And I started walking into my mom's facility and it was like ice. Everybody was like, and I remember one day that, the day that they told me I was no longer allowed to be in the room when they were working on my mom.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, what are you talking about? I'm her legal conservator of person. Like, I have legal right to be in that room. I'm in essence her mother.
Mm-hmm.
And they were like, you're not allowed. And they just shut the curtain in front of me, which that wasn't true, by the way. I was totally allowed. I had all the rights in the world. But I made a decision at that point to mitigate, to take the less aggressive stand at the time. And I would stand outside the curtain and just wait like an idiot. But because they didn't want me to see anything and clean, as they cleaned her, or just that I would complain about her, whatever. They just thought that's what they could do. So sometimes you have to make choices because you know what the culture is. And you have to somehow fit into that culture. It doesn't feel good when people are icing you. It doesn't feel good as a human being to walk in and everybody's shooting you darts. That doesn't feel good, let alone having your mom suffering doesn't feel good. So you certainly don't need that on top of all the other pressure you're going through.
Yeah. But you
when
as
you're
a caregiver,
in crisis, you can't make decisions. It's hard to make decisions in crisis.
And as a caregiver, when you put head to pillow, you have to be able to tell yourself you did everything you possibly could that day, and you're going to do it again the next day. So whatever that's going to be, it's going to be. When my dad was relocated into a long-term care facility, they had something just outside his door, like a display case, and every room had it. And I didn't know what it was. Again, ignorance, right? I didn't know what it was. I'm like, and it was empty. And I asked somebody, I said, what's that? They said, well, you could put a number of things that belong to your dad. Yeah, that are personal, so that when somebody walks by the room or they're going to go in the room, they know who your dad is. They know. So my dad was a soccer player and was from Malta. And so we put all, a lot of photos of him playing soccer and all that stuff, so it can tell a bit of his history, because everybody has a story. And in taking a cue from that, something that I did that I thought would help, and maybe it did, that I thought would help in advocating for him getting the best care possible, was talking about him with the staff, talking about him, sharing memories, really humanizing him, because by the time he got there, maybe a little bit afterwards, he was obviously a shell of what he used to be.
Right.
You couldn't tell anything about him by the time he was getting their care. So I would talk about him a lot. So in that vein, Norma, your mother, she was, and I wish I knew her.
Everyone says that. Thank you.
Oh, I do. She had an infectious spirit about her. It seemed like everybody was in a better mood when she was in the room, and she was a child prodigy. She was a gifted opera singer. I mean, this is not only a person that deserves care towards end of life and deserves love throughout, but that has to be celebrated. This is a person that was a difference maker, that was brilliant and talented. Everybody needs to know who she is.
Oh, thank you
true.
so much.
And that's a big part of this documentary is, like, I hope what you're walking away from it is you're blowing the whistle on what's going on in the industry in the US, but on top of that, you're celebrating the most important person in your life that made you. She's an incredible person, and I'm grateful for the film, because now I know who she was.
Oh, wow. That's so touching. Thank you. Thank you so much for saying that. I mean, that was such a big decision, how much of Mom to put in there, because I didn't want anyone to think this was a personal, like, diary, and that it was like, me, trying, just a personal journey, that it wouldn't relate. And maybe I was being too gratuitous, and I didn't have any perspective, but my gut was, I need them to know who she was. I need them to see that she was there. That conversation that is our thread, where I'm talking to her about her whole life, that wasn't planned. That was well before. That was 36 hours before that she went into the hospital for the first time. And my partner, Don, who's like a brother and a son to my mom, just happened to take out his phone and shot 12 minutes of her being Mom. And you saw her come to life, even with little, and that was after COVID. So she lost a lot of her ability to speak because no one was speaking to her. Yeah. And she, I'd tell her story, and she'd go, yeah. Everyone loved Norma. Yeah. Mostly the men. Yeah. There's my mom.
She really laughed at that.
Right? Yeah. And I say all the time, my mom had more game, even in a wheelchair, on her last week than I've ever had. There was a handsome guy that came in, who was a respiratory specialist in her last week, and he was this gorgeous man, and he walked in, and I said, oh, you're going to give her a day. My mom was laying down, and she went, oh, hello. Not with voice, but it was like, hello.
Yeah, with her eyes. Yeah, with the look. Yeah.
And that was my mom. And men, I have other men that have told me, like, in our caregiving community, well, I want to know Norma. I know her. I love her. I'm in love with her,
Yeah. Didn't she sing?
So thank you for saying that.
Didn't she sing at one point? And somebody said, maybe it was somebody else that was... there at the facility was saying, thank you for today. Like, she was amazing. Like, she made my day. There was something like that.
Yeah. Well, I, like you, I wanted to humanize my mom. And so I have all these tracks. She was a recording artist. When she moved to LA, she signed with Capitol Records. And then I have like a whole lot of tracks from all of her demos, which you hear. I put them into the documentary.
Oh, she's so good. She's so good. Oh, and it was your dad. If not for your dad, she wouldn't have gone to Capitol Records and been captured in that way, because your dad had that ear,
right? Geniuses. Both musical geniuses. And so I play them and I sing along every time I visited her. That was our communication. And I would sing with her, to her, with all the music she loved. I know every word to Hot August Night, Neil Diamond. I'll never not know a word because I went through it ad nauseum. And then all of the operas, I know I can speak them, I sing them. And, and people would walk by when I play her tracks and goes, you see him back up and go, who is that? And I go, that's her.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
I'd go, yeah, that's her. Because I wanted people to know who she was.
Oh, incredible. 16 years old, and she's on a radio show for NBC.
CBS, NBC, yeah.
NBC,
yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
She was just, what an incredible person. Are you able to watch this film? Are you able to watch these 3 episodes? Can you go back and do it, or is it like it's done? I put it out in the world, and that's good enough for me.
I've had to watch it so many times. There's so much times that you have to go through frame by frame for legal and for quality control. It's so very difficult for me, and I compartmentalized my grief. When she died, I cried. I got into bed with her and I cried for an hour. And I said so many things to her. And then after that, it was like, okay, I'm ready. I got to make this film. This film has to be made. And I had to compartmentalize because I would have to see things and edit. I'm also editing with my editor. I'm an editor as well. So it was very tough. I had to compartmentalize and say, the one, can we pull that scene where she's da-da-da and she's wailing like this? I'm serious.
You had to experience it all over again.
And so it's just now that I'm taking a breath and going, I miss my mommy.
Yeah.
I miss her.
Do you miss her that much more because the film is done and out there? Because you had to say goodbye to the film too, right? And now it belongs to all of us.
Stop! You're gonna make me cry.
I'm not trying. I promise. But I know. I kind of know what you mean. I've got a podcast called Remembering, and I interviewed my mom about my dad, and the time I spent, which does not equate to this film in terms of prep and work and the years you would have put in, because you spent 3 years making this film. I didn't spend 3 years making that podcast episode, but when I put that episode away and it was done, it was like I felt a little sense of loss that the episode was done. Yeah. Because I can still talk to my mom anytime I want. She's around, but it's different when you're interviewing your mother, and it's in this case, it was different when you're making a film about your mother and about the industry. But it's kind of like saying goodbye again. It's hard to do. It's
very hard to do. I tell her. When it first was released on Friday, I went to make sure that it was on, up on Amazon. And
how'd that feel to see it there?
It was amazing. It was amazing because it was like, we did it.
Yeah.
There it is. And there's that picture, that iconic picture of my mom and I from that day that my friend, thank you.
Beautiful.
And I said to my mom, I said, God damn it, look at you. There you are, making change, and you've been gone for 3 years, and you're as powerful as ever. Yeah. And I know what she would have said. What are you doing? Stop it. You're right, I'm good. I did a short film with Valerie Harper.
Yes, I was going to ask about that. Ago. And Liz Torres, who I know.
Liz Torres.
You talk about a character. Oh my God.
A pistol. My God.
Oh
right?
my God. And she's in a facility now, but
I visit her all the time.
Do you?
I love her.
Do you really?
Yeah.
Because you're part of a group of people that I know quite well, and she is still sharp and funny, and you gotta pull her back and go, Liz.
I know, rein it in. She got a little bit of my mom in her, but in a different way, right? In fact, her and I traveled to Alaska for one of the festivals, and that was very interesting. That is a wild woman. She has she's a spirit. So I did a film called My Mom and the Girl, which was a incredible story because our caregiver, who was like my nanny for my daughter, who became my mom's housekeeper, and then was such a natural caregiver that when I moved my mom in with me after my divorce, Irlanda, who's Guatemalan, who was became my mom's best friend. you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
And she said she would move in, and we became Team Norma, my daughter, myself, and Erlanda. And every time, because I was working from home, because I was like, it was crazy. It was bananas. Because my mom was really healthy physically and everything, but it was like, and so, by the way, we lived in this loft, which was like a live-work loft in Hollywood, and so it had parking attendants, and it was kind of like living at a studio because it was all people in the industry. My mom was in her element because nobody used their garages. It was very New Yorky, and like your garage was like your office, and people lived on the other 3 floors. She was like in everybody's business, and everybody loved her. And I thought, oh my God, everyone's going to kill me because they got work to do. If she didn't visit them, they were like, "Where's Norma? Is she okay? We miss her. Where is she?" Right? Yeah. She was in there was this band who was like huge in Mexico. They had a loft there for when they were in LA. They fell in love with her, put her in a music video.
Oh,
she went down. Yeah, amazing. One day she's gone with Erlanda for like 3 hours. I'm like, okay, because they would walk everywhere because Erlanda didn't drive. And I'm like, Erlanda, where are you? Oh, we're in Starbucks with Snoop Dogg. I go, what?
What?
Yeah. She's like, Nanny, Nanny. I'm like, okay, all right. Let me know if you need me to pick you up. Apparently my mom had an afternoon with Snoop at Starbucks, and was like, she sang with him, and he's like, I'm taking you on the road, little mama, and loving on her. And yeah. So this is what was going on. At that time.
I love that. Well, it was, I mean, above all else, it was great to meet Norma and for you to introduce her to the world, for those that didn't know her. And we get to know her in No Country for Old People, but we also get to see you pull back the curtain on what's going on in the nursing home industry in the U.S. Again, the documentary is called No Country for Old People. Susie Singer Carter, I can't thank you enough for spending so much time with us today to talk about the documentary and, more importantly, to talk about your mom.
Thank you so much, Jeff. I really appreciate it, and I appreciate what you do, too.
Oh, thank you so much,
I think what
Susie.
you're doing is really great.
And thank you for being a part of this community as well. I'm Jeff Sammut. This has been another episode of Amintro Family, the podcast, which you can hear first on the Amintro Family app and then wherever you listen to podcasts. We've got a new episode dropping every 2 weeks. Check out AmintroFamily.com. And a reminder, we want to hear your stories on the forum, and we can share them here as well on Amintro Family, the podcast.